Hello, my name is Jennifer Shlomovich, and I am a vegan confidence coach. I specialize in helping vegans eliminate people pleasing so they can confidently be themselves and navigate the challenges of having a lifestyle different from the people around them. Here on my channel, The Confident Vegan, I share content on Tuesdays for Topic Tuesday, where I interview guests and share other personal development topics. On Fridays, I have Food Friday, where I share recipes and other food-related content. Today, my special guest is Anne Robertson, who is going to share her vegan story. Anne was vegetarian for 29 years before going fully vegan in 2020 after learning about the atrocities in the dairy industry. Anne worked for the National Health Department for 39 years. In 2020, she trained to become a life coach and now works part-time with university students with neurodiversity. Anne has been a vegan activist for 5 months and recently participated in a supermarket sit-in on the last day of 2023. Anne, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
It's so nice to have you here. So yeah, I love hearing the journeys that different vegans take because I feel it's so helpful for those, we all share similar struggles and challenges, and it's great to learn how others have overcome them. And so, what is your vegan story?
Well, as you said, 29 years I've been vegetarian. So that kind of the first thing I did, I think, was we were used to go hill walking and we'd see these lambs bouncing around. And then you'd think, I don't really feel comfortable going home and eating your brothers tonight. That was a kind of first kind of stage, I suppose. And I think there wasn't an awful lot known about veganism in the earlier days. You know, we didn't have social media, we didn't have as much information. And looking back now, if I'd known, I would have went sooner. I think many people say that. My son went vegan about 10 years ago now, so 6 years ago before I went vegan. And he did used to say to me, you know, you think you're doing well being vegetarian, but you're not. You know, there is things going on in the dairy industry that you didn't, you don't know about. And I think this is the position I'm now in, where I want to tell other people what's going on. And it's interesting how if you're not in the right place, you can't hear it, or you don't want to hear it. At that point, I was a single mum raising 3 children, and my dad also had dementia and lived, 50 miles away. I was caring for him, and I didn't have the headspace. I just didn't have the headspace to even consider it. I think I thought it was going to be harder than it was. And I think that was the difficulty. I thought it was going to be harder. And actually, looking back now, if I'd known it was going to be so easy, I would have just done it. I think I thought this was going to be some big task I would have to take on. And I would have to do additional things to raise the children a different way. As I said, they've been brought up vegetarian. So I was already quite a strict vegetarian. They didn't get anything with gelatin in it. So if I was used to looking at all the ingredients. So looking back now, if I'd realised it wasn't actually as hard as I thought it was going to be. So for January 2020, I decided, of course, that was just before lockdown. We didn't know we were going into lockdown. I decided that I would try Veganuary, and I wouldn't put myself under pressure. I would just see how it went. And the way I describe it to other people is, I think once you know, you know. I didn't seek out the information, but the information is there when you're starting to look at recipes and you come across information about the dairy industry. And I think you just kind of think, okay. So it was like when it came to the end of January, it would be almost the same as someone said to me, go and eat some meat. And I would have been like horrified because I would never have eaten meat for 29 years. So it was like that. I was like, oh, now that I know about this, I can't go back. I can't do something that I know is going to harm an animal. So I didn't, I never went back after that. So that was January 2020. So yeah, I suppose that's the kind of journey how I got there. So I don't know if there's anything else I need to add to that.
Yeah, I've heard some other people share how Veganuary was a big help for them to transition. I think, when you try it for a month, it's like you have an open mind and you're like, oh, let me just see what this is like. Like for me, it started with dairy. I just eliminated dairy for a month just to see how I would feel because I had a feeling that it was impacting my skin and my sinuses. And when I gave up dairy for 30 days, I realized I was feeling bad in ways I didn't even realize I was feeling bad when I was having dairy products. And then I looked at all these recipes, dairy-free recipes, and I found all these vegan recipes, and that's when I realized that vegan food's not boring, it's actually exciting.
Mm.
And I wanted to find a way to eat healthier without feeling deprived, and I felt like vegan was the answer for that, but I didn't transition for a few years because I knew my family wouldn't want to be vegan. I think, what you said something very important a few minutes ago about, you have to be ready to hear a message. So not everyone's ready and open to hear that. And looking back, once, because I thought it was going to be so hard. And when I finally transitioned over, it like now, like, it's like what you said, once and it's not so hard. Like it was hard in the beginning. I think any kind of change from what we're used to, it feels hard.
Yeah,
It
yeah. I
feels
think one of the
different.
things, yeah, one of the things I remember thinking was when I was going on to non-dairy milk was I equated it from going from, people that used to drink full fat and then they went to semi-skimmed. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my goodness, oh, I don't like this. But it was within 2 days. It was fine. So I thought to myself, you've done that, you can do this. And actually, I was shocked because I didn't even have 2 days of adjusting. I was like, oh, okay, just tastes the same, really.
Yeah, our taste buds do change also. Like I know a lot of people, and I was that way too. Like, oh my God, I'm going to miss cheese, and what am I going to do without cheese? And especially now, there's so many brands out there of vegan cheese that they're much better, I heard, than because I've been vegan for 7 years and I've spoken to vegans who've been vegan for a really long time. And the cheese back then, as
Yeah,
wasn't as good. But now there's so many great cheese options,
yeah,
and your taste buds do change. So after a couple of weeks, I found after not having dairy products and cheese, you adjust to your new version of dairy products, of the vegan
yes, yeah,
cheese and the
yeah,
yogurt and all of that. Your
yeah,
taste buds do change. And yeah, and once you get settled in with it, um it gets easier. For me, I think, once for me it started with health and then it went to the animals, and I knew where meat came from, but there's that disassociation. A lot of vegans I've spoken to, because we grow up, we just go to the grocery store, that's how we were raised with our families. You just get the meat,
yeah,
you don't think too much of where it comes from, even though you know where it comes from. But then once you see some documentaries and you really start understanding and you learn about what's going on in the dairy industry and all these atrocities that are happening, you realize that you want to like not have it. However, you can, not have anything to do with it. You find a way, and you have to make it works best for you. My family's still not vegan, but our household is mostly vegan because of me. So there's very little animal products that come into the house. So I feel like that's a step in progress right there.
yeah, yeah. No, I probably my so I've got three adult children. So I said my son was already vegan. The other two were brought up vegetarian, but they're not vegan. And I think it's only recently I've become a bit, probably through the activism, I've become a bit clearer about I, even as a mum, don't want to give money to the meat industry in any way. I don't want to give it to the dairy industry. I don't want to buy products that actually is giving money to that industry. And I'm lucky in the fact that my children are older. So only recently, again, it's got kind of like I've got more sort of clear in my beliefs as the time's gone on, probably because of my activism. So I just said to them recently, so a couple of months ago, maybe about a month ago, I said, this Easter, I'm not going to be buying Easter eggs. I'm not going to, I'll buy vegan Easter eggs, or I'll give you money and you can do what you wish with it, but I'm not going to be buying them. And I think I found that quite hard because I'm thinking, and that's, one of the things that's a challenge because I was thinking that's the balance between being the role as a mum and keeping what they would see as their tradition up. Like around Christmas time, they get selection boxes and all the things that you've done for all these years. And, that whole thought of, well, they didn't choose to go vegan, so they're still looking for that. And I was actually pleasantly surprised because I just said, that's fine, no bother. So it was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. So, I think that's the difficulty. Like my son had a birthday party recently, and I bought all the food that was vegan, and I said to him, if you want additional food, yourself. But I just felt as if I couldn't do it anymore. I don't want to give money to the dairy industry, even if it's not for me to eat it.
Hmm.
So things like I would normally have, if I was going to visit a friend, I might buy them a box of chocolates, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll buy them a box of vegan chocolates. You can get like lots of things that are accidentally vegan, so or other vegan chocolates. And I just thought I'm not going to do it anymore. I'll buy them something different. I'm not going to buy. So that's probably only in the last sort of 6 weeks that I've made that stance.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's being around other vegans. And I'll come on to talk about that, the importance, I think, of being with other people that think the same as you.
Yeah, community is so important because I think one of the biggest challenges of being a vegan is feeling alone and isolated with a lifestyle, especially if you're the only vegan. That's a big part of my work with the
Yeah.
confident vegan is helping people confidently be themselves no matter what the people around them are doing. And yeah, it's so important to do that. And community is so helpful for that. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've had as a vegan?
Probably what you said, because I'm 59 soon. So, that's there's there's not as many people my age group that have gone vegan. Sorry, my cat just came in. Decided
That's okay.
um, so actually, just out of interest, I've just put my cat onto a vegan diet as well. Um, because I think I'd been told that they couldn't, and then I've been given information that there's vegan cat food out there that actually have everything they need. Um, so he's just gone on a vegan diet. So my cat's also vegan.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, that's the I still because I have a cat and she's gonna be 13 soon. And I haven't switched her over because when I had her, she wasn't vegan. I didn't want to do anything that was going to cause her harm. I've heard a lot of mixed things on that. But that is something I am curious at some point in exploring more. Just
Yeah, yeah.
how was that transition for
Well,
you?
she's still in the transition stage. So at the moment, she's getting both. Sorry, he is getting both.
Hmm.
But I have to say, he is quite a greedy cat. So he's just kind of like he'll eat anything really, I think. So that's not been a problem. But the company will give you a kind of guide how to actually transition into vegan cat food. Benova is the name of the company, and they've done the research. If you can go onto their site, it gives you everything you need to know.
What's the name of
Um,
the company?
Benova,
Vinova. Okay. Hmm.
Benova.
Yeah,
I'll,
I think that's something that, does come up. Some people are curious about it. I'm certainly open to learn more about it. But it's just the one area that I haven't with my cat because I committed to taking care of her and I don't want to do I've had her before I was vegan, so I wasn't sure on
yeah,
that, but it's something I'm open to learning more about. I think, as more people are becoming vegan and there's more research, like you said, there's a lot of research now, people understand how to implement things so nutrition is all nutrition requirements are met. So yeah, I'm certainly interested in learning more about that sometime, and I'll check out their website to
yeah,
see
yeah,
to learn more about that. So yeah, so you were saying before that like
yeah. The challenges.
social is having a social life can be challenging as a vegan. Um,
Yeah.
and so, what are some tips can you share a little bit more about your journey with the challenges of
Yeah, I think I think the biggest challenge probably is most of my friends. I mean, none of my friends in my age group are vegan. And I've had friends that have been 30, 40 years being friends. And I think I view them differently now. And it's hard because I just, they kind of got some close friends that are very kind of, they absolutely love animals. They say they love animals. Um, but obviously their lifestyle indicates to me that that can't be completely true. Um, so I find it quite difficult that I do find it quite difficult being friends with people who are not vegan. But these are long-standing friendships, and they're very kind people. And
Hmm.
you know, I have to remember that I wasn't there either. You know, so I can't kind of, kind of, you know, sort of be dismissive of these people just because they haven't been on that journey that I've been on. They haven't seen the light. Um, but again, I've probably got a bit clearer in my boundaries. So now I kind of say to people, I would rather not go to a restaurant that serves meat. So I would rather meet you and do something different with you. I don't really want to go out for a meal anymore. Recently, I met some cousins that I hadn't seen for a long time, and I just contacted them and said, "Oh, I've heard about this really good restaurant." I didn't actually mention the fact it was a vegan restaurant. I said it was a a Thai restaurant, had a really good write up. Can you look at all the reviews? I'd really happy for me to book that, and they all come back and said, "Yeah, that's fine." I didn't mention that it was vegan, and we all came. They all had a lovely meal. So I think I'm doing things like that now, which is makes a difference, I think. And again, that's probably been around some activists who have found ways of learning from them. And that's the kind of things they do. They say, I'm just going to kind of put my boundaries in place and see how it goes. And people do seem to generally accept when you've put your boundaries in place. So I think that's one of the things. I've decided I'm not going to stop being friends with the people that I've been friends with. Um, and that took a long time to kind of make that decision.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm spending less time probably with people. And I've been on holiday with one of my close friends, and it definitely put a strain on our relationship in the holiday because you went out for meals a lot,
Hmm.
um, and you're wandering around, and you'll know what it's like. I mean, because I was vegetarian, it's not so difficult when I got away with family because we're all vegetarian and my son and I are both vegan. So we're used to doing that, traipsing around looking for somewhere to eat. But when you're with someone that's not vegan and they're or not even vegetarian, um, you're not really very keen on the extra time, even if you actually look up there's not, the places where we were didn't have any kind of like, obviously you can look up the Happy Cow app, but there was actually no places that we could eat. There wasn't anywhere there was on Happy Cow. There was a small village in
Oh, wow.
Portugal, so it was a case of having to go out and search yourself. Um, it did put a strain on our relationship, and I made a decision at that holiday that I wouldn't go on holiday with her again. Um, because I didn't want it to put that strain in our relationship. You know.
Yeah, I think as we change and it's a process, right? First it starts with the food and 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 then it goes from other areas in our lives, especially with the social, and then and we're constantly refining that process. I feel like I'm always refining it,
Yeah,
and you start with what you're comfortable in doing, and then you start realizing, oh, there's other things I don't want to do anymore. What can I do now to change that? and and boundaries is the key, and communicating it. And if you're communicating your boundaries in a respectful way and somebody can't respect your boundaries, then that says more about that person and that relationship. And then that relationship is, what I realize is, if somebody can't respect where you are in your life's journey, then that's maybe not a relationship to continue investing in. and
yeah,
and that's my key factor. Someone can respect me for who I am. I'll respect them for who they are, but if they can't respect me and we can't find a way to come together where everyone can feel, okay, like at a restaurant, And so what I do is I'll look for a vegan option if I'm meeting up with friends, or I'll look for a vegan option, and then I'll look for a couple of places that have a vegan menu that aren't fully vegan. And then I try to and then I'll give the option of them to pick from those choices. And people who've chosen the vegan restaurants have actually been pleasantly surprised by the food.
Yeah, yeah,
And they didn't and so it's a great I look at it as a great opportunity to show people just how great vegan food is. Then for me, it started with the food, and then it went for animals and environment. And but because we love food and we connect with it so much, I think there's that fear of I'm going to miss out on something great. I don't want to lose out. And especially now, there's so many great recipes and substitutes out there that you really aren't going to miss out. If anything, you're going to have a healthier version. Yes, there's unhealthy vegan food, but I mean, I've made so many things so much more healthier um, by just swapping them out with vegan ingredients. And so,
yeah, yeah.
um,
No,
yeah, and it's so yeah, I think finding that support is so helpful. And what are some other tips that you could share about navigating the challenges of being vegan?
I do think finding your people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2023 in the summer, I went to something called Vegan Camp Out. So it's a big camp out in the UK. Thousands of people go, thousands of people, mostly vegans, but not all vegans. It's a sort of music, talks, campaigns, just as a big family event. And I think it was at that point I came away from there thinking being vegan isn't enough. Just living a vegan diet is not actually enough, because it made me think, well, the animals can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
They only have us. They only have us here that can talk on their behalf. So I decided at that point to go down the so and actually I think it's the best route I've ever a best decision I've ever made, because it opened up a whole world to me that I
Can
didn't
you
even know
repeat what you
existed.
said a second ago? Because it had cut out. You started saying you did something and then it cut out with the audio.
So I think what I was saying, so I think it probably was the best decision that I made was actually to open my world up to the activism,
Okay.
because it opened me up to a group of people I didn't even know were out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it meant then I could actually engage with people that were on the same page as me. And I have to say, I found a lovely group of people. I know that you had Meyer
Yes.
on
Yeah,
your,
Meyer.
yeah.
Yep.
So Meyer is one of the people that's in the group, and Amit, they were
Yep.
both.
Yep. I had them
So
both
they're,
on. Yeah, they were
yeah,
great.
yeah. So they were already in the activism group, and they're such a warm, welcoming group of people. They work tirelessly to get the message out there, and I think that it was like coming home. It was like, yeah, these are
Mm-hmm.
my people. These are the people I can be open with. I can be honest with. I don't have to hide anything at all. Because of my life coaching, I kind of, I don't know, in your life coaching whether you follow Brené Brown. Um,
Yep. Yep.
Brené
I'm
Brown,
familiar with Brene Brown. Yep.
yeah, yeah, and also people like Michelle Obama. That a lot of the stuff that they write about is that kind of like being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that's quite important to me. I've had to learn now to be comfortable being in an environment that makes me uncomfortable, and kind of for those moments where I'm saying something out loud that makes other people uncomfortable, that I just think I'm okay with this. I can cope with this. This is okay for me. Because I think at the back of it is, well, the animals can't talk, so they've no choice. They rely on me. They rely on other people out there doing activists to talk on their behalf. I think people that have gone vegan or vegetarian and then they end up not, they're not going down that route. I think it's because they have they aren't really doing it for the animals. I
Mm-hmm.
think they think they are, but then because if you looked at a piece of, okay, I want that, I want the taste of it, but then you balance that up with knowing what happens in the dairy industry. If you really cared about the animals, you could never eat that cheese. I think it's always good to have that kind of I've never been someone that's a lot of the footage. I've never felt the need to look at some of the stories about what happens to the animals. I know I don't need to go down that route. Um, so I think it's just about being quite strong in your belief of why you're vegan. And I think if you can stick to that, then yeah, going out for a meal, and if it's not the best meal in the world, and you think, well, I miss going out and doing some other food. If you're strong about why you're doing it, then it'll not eat away at you. Because you then can be proud of, well, I'm not part of that world. I'm not part of that world there. Not only for animals, but environmental reasons too. I went to the kind of COP27, COP28 marches. And when you're marching, you're proud the fact that actually you have made that transition to being vegan, because you know that's one of the biggest
Hmm.
um, contributors to environmental issues, and the destruction of the environment. And the people that are suffering are not us, it's the people in developing countries that are suffering the worst. And again, you're kind of thinking, well, that's why I'm making these decisions, that's why I'm living like that. So I think kind of like making that stance is probably things that are important. But I do think that probably the most important thing is finding your community. And whether that be, I took up running and I joined a vegan runners group.
Oh, great.
And again, it's kind of low level activism. It's not, you're not going out there and doing the activist role, but you're wearing a t-shirt that says vegan. Um, you're proving, that actually you can be strong, you can be fit and healthy while you're being a vegan.
Yeah.
So, about a couple of weeks ago, we did, just for fun. So in Edinburgh, it's Edinburgh I live. You've got a tram line, and it's about, I think it's maybe about a 20-mile tram line, maybe sort of 15, 20 miles. And the vegan runner group did a run from every tram station
Oh,
and
wow.
stopped. So that means that they're going through right the city centre of Edinburgh, all dressed in their, people kind of go, no, look, these are people that are vegan. So it's kind of like, you don't know what it's sparking, you don't know what people are thinking. So it's just kind of trying it from different angles. So I think being strong with people that have your morals and your values is probably the best thing, I think, to keep you navigating that whole kind of challenges in life. I think is probably I would say for me it's the strongest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think finding your people is key. And activism shows up in different ways. For me, my channel, having conversations with people, is my form of activism, to help people see that vegans are all types of people from all over the
Yeah,
world with all kinds of backgrounds, and they all found a way to do it, and they made it work, and it's not so hard. And I feel like by hearing other people's journeys to veganism, my hope is that it can help others who are thinking about it or just learn more about it, and just be open to trying it. um, and so, yeah, for me, this is my form of activism. So there's so many different ways. And
it
yeah,
is. It
running,
is.
there's that misconception of, vegans aren't healthy and they're not fit. And by you just running through town with your that shows that, and you're right, you don't know what that could spark in someone's mind.
Yeah,
And 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 I think people who say, they love animals but they still eat animals, there's that disassociation part that I
yeah,
once had. And and sometimes we don't, we're not ready to hear a message, or fully see a message, but you never know what that moment will be when someone is ready to hear that message. And so I think the work that you're doing is really, really great, and really helpful and impactful. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming here today to talk about it, talk about your journey. And before we wrap up, what are some inspirational resources
I'm
or
just
supportive
looking
resources you would like to
question.
share? Pick up where we left us. So, what was so can you share a little bit more about your activism?
Yes, the group I'm in is called Vegan Activism Forum, and it's a Glasgow and Edinburgh based group. And more recently, they've been following what they call the WFT. So obviously, WFT can be said can be an acronym for lots of things, but it's called We the Free. We the Free,
Mm-hmm.
they have this 3 minute video, which is a kind of challenge that they challenge the public to watch a video for 3 minutes and gets a small prize at the end if they manage the 3 minutes. So the 3 minute video is about the dairy industry, and it's what goes
Mm-hmm.
on across the world, but it does happen in the UK. You know what's happening in the videos. There's somebody called Michael D who has a formula that he suggests that people follow after. So what happens is the public come up, we try and do it in kind of busy streets in the capital in Edinburgh and Glasgow. We invite people to watch the video, and they say, what's the video about? And you say, well, that's the challenge. You don't know what the video is about. That
Oh
you're going to get
wow.
a prize for watching 3 minutes of it. So often they're going into it. They can often get into it with not any knowledge. We don't encourage children to watch it because it can be quite graphic for them. They're accessing Facebook at the age of 13. So some of the sort of 13-year-old plus. So, what will happen is they'll watch it. They are quite shocked. And then there's a kind of system for interviewing them after it. So you're engaging with the person, you're kind of tuning into their what they thought about it. Sorry, I wrote down what kind of, so the person's name is Michael D. And actually, it's called reverse psychology. So the way that he works, which we don't do at the moment, is he'll have a sign up and it'll say, animal cruelty is convince me that animal cruelty is not good. So it's that reverse psychology. People have come up to him and have to convince him why animal cruelty is not the right thing. So basically, his starting point is, so what your really aim is for actually to at least engage with the person initially, to get them to recognise that actually, animal cruelty is not something they want to participate in. And then from that, you have a discussion, and he's got a whole host of questions that you can follow, that kind of helps you kind of guide the person to sort of open their eyes, I suppose, to what goes on. So as I said, so recently they've actually been doing the activism every weekend. And about 28%, 29%, 26% is so we record at the end how many people have said that they're going to go vegan. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the number of people that have said at every week has said they're going to go vegan. So it's very effective. If
Wow.
you think if we actually can get every week that amount of people saying that they're going to go vegan, that's a huge shift. So I think that's, for me, that's really, really important. At the moment, I'm not, because I've not been doing it that long. I'm not one of the main activists, and so a lot of people say, who inspires you, because obviously we've got people like Tish Patterson. So if we come across Tish,
Mm-mm.
so people should look her up because she's an Australian campaigner.
Okay.
Um, she's really fascinating. She came over to do a talk at the Vegan Camp Out. Um, she was at university, quite a quiet individual at university. So they basically said to her, you're not really going to make it in any industry because you're too quiet. She now has campaigns in Australia and in the UK. She's been arrested by the police. She's been excluded from going into restaurants because she'll go into restaurants quite often either dressed in a bikini and sometimes with blood on her.
Oh wow.
really, she's quite a big campaigner. So I would say that, after I met her, you're like, right, okay, I can't do that. I can't do what you're doing, but I can do it at a lower level. So Joey Carbstrong, have you heard of Joey Carbstrong?
Mm-mm.
Again, he's a real big campaigner. He'll go out and he'll challenge people in the street. Um, so he's just, he's got really good campaign. And then have you heard of Earthling Ed?
I've heard of Earthling Ed. Yes.
Right. So he's just got a new book coming out, and his new book's called How to Argue with a Meat Eater and Win Every Time. So this is his
Oh,
book
wow.
that's
That
just
sounds like a good book to check out.
so these are people, I suppose, that inspire me. But actually, I have to say, when I was thinking about your questions, the people that inspire me really are the people in Edinburgh and Glasgow. These people are passionate. Honestly, they they give up huge amount of their time, and every week they're going out there doing it. So, we've got kind of we've got people called Pamela, we've got Paolo, we've got Lewis, these are the people that look, they're the ones that are in charge, and I would say I think they're amazing. I think, we can have all these, people that are doing huge campaigns somewhere else, but these are the grassroots level people who are going out there every single week and making 25 or 28% of people saying, I'm going to go vegan after this.
That's great. It sounds like, yeah, just finding your local community, right? And it sounds like Edinburgh has such a great welcoming vegan community that's supporting other vegans and making such an impact and helping to inspire others to become vegan. And so it's yeah, it sounds like finding your local community wherever you are watching this. See what's going
Yeah,
on
yeah.
in your local community because there's groups everywhere, meetup.com, there's different groups. I just recently created a virtual meetup. I'm calling it the Vegan Sip and Chat where people can just bring some coffee or tea or wine, whatever, and just have a relaxing conversation. Just support. I wanted something casual, so I'm launching that next March 27th is when I'm kicking that off. So this is going to be airing after that
Yeah.
first kickoff, but I'm planning on scheduling events monthly by having these virtual events to help people, but there's so many things locally, virtually, and yeah, finding your people I think is really really important. I
It
think
is.
that's really good advice.
Yeah, if you meet up with a couple other people and start something locally, it doesn't have to be big. These are not big events. They're kind of small local events that you can actually just start small, and kind of build up from there. It doesn't have to be something amazing. We have another person, Justina, who's owns a vegan cafe, and she's doing similar to what you're doing, but it's face to face. It's called a vegan circle.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so, so just once a month, vegans, so this is based in Edinburgh at the moment, can come together, and really, when you were talking about the challenges, so really, I suppose it's probably that I always kind of think it's a bit like the Alcoholics Anonymous type group where you sit and actually just say, I'm vegan, and actually this is what I find really hard about being vegan. And because you're there with other people that are not going to judge you, you can actually be honest with people and you can say, you
Yeah.
know, about it. And that's probably, that circle made me probably make that decision about my children, sitting there thinking, this is what I find hard. I find it hard being a mum, and that balance of doing the mum role, but doing the vegan role, and how do I navigate that? And probably in that circle made me think, do you know what, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can change. So I think it's saying things out loud and knowing you're not going to be judged. So that has been going on for, I think, maybe sort of 5 6 months. She's set that up.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and I can't remember one of the other organisers. She had went over to, she'd been visiting, I think maybe it might have been Spain, and she did one when she was there. Um, just to try and kind of kickstart it there as well.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, it's kind of not a virtual one, but it's similar, vein to what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. A community is so important, and yeah, wherever you can find it, and it, like you said, it could just be a few people just chatting, but there's something it's just so helpful when you have other people who understand you, and as vegans we have similar values, and you're not going to be judged for being vegan, and for and we all deal with a lot of the same annoying comments about protein and don't you miss meat and isn't it hard, you name it, I've heard it. And um it's very helpful when you have people who can understand and just hear you and support you, and that's my goal with the vegan sip and chat. I'm going to include the link for that down below, because I'm planning on scheduling monthly, so this is going to air by the time this goes up, it'll be after my first meeting, but I'm going to have other meetings, so check out the schedule. And it's been so great chatting with you. What's a good way for people to connect with you?
Probably through the vegan activism forum,
Okay.
because I think I would probably the people through that probably have a wealth of knowledge, wider than my knowledge in some ways. So that's on Instagram. It's on
Okay.
Facebook.
If you can give me that link, if you can email me that link
Yes, I
after
will do.
our
Will
meeting,
do.
I'll include the link for that in the notes below. So if you want to connect with the vegan activism forum, connect with Anne there. I'll put that link in the notes below. Before we wrap up, was there anything else you wanted to share or
I
say?
don't think so. I was just trying to kind of think through what I was wanting to talk about. And I wrote a couple of wee notes to myself. But we're actually all going to see something called Christspiracy tomorrow night. You heard of
Okay.
that? Have you heard of Cowspiracy and then
I've heard of
Seaspiracy?
Cowspiracy, yeah.
Right. So Seaspiracy and then the new one that's out is called Christspiracy. I think probably one of the things that, because I think when I was looking at some of the activism thing, people kind of get a bit burnt out doing activism. And I think that's why we the three have come up with this kind of formula of doing it that way, because it feels kind of more positive rather than a kind of real negative kind of
Mm-hmm.
on it. And they also, what you were saying about, how other people, even if it's a small group, we the three have also some funding. So you can apply for some funding to get things like the small token gifts at the end and to buy equipment and things like that as well. But actually the most important thing I think after our events is we always socialise after the events. So we go out and we do the event. And because sometimes it can be quite difficult. Some people can be quite aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but actually knowing that you're going to be socialising afterwards and be a debriefing and just spending time together. And that also I think allows the group to gel really well. So I think that's probably one of the things that's been really good is that kind of social aspect that people are getting to know each other, not just in the actual campaign and activism part. And the vegan runners as well, they do a similar, they kind of not only run, they also have some social aspects to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I haven't mentioned. I'll have a wee look
Well,
at my notes.
yeah, sure, no problem.
Anything you want to ask me? Anything else you want to ask me about?
I think I asked everything I wanted to ask. Yeah, I think this was I really enjoyed our conversation. I really appreciate you sharing your journey and sharing the work that you're doing. I think your journey highlights some important points of start small. It's a gradual process. We're always refining that process of, start with what's easy. I even tell people sometimes, try it for a week. Cut out animal products for a week, or think about things that you already eat on a weekly basis. What do you normally cook? And then do a little challenge, make it fun. What animal products do you use in those recipes, and what can you swap it out with, and experiment. Try to make it fun, try things out. And I think when you come from a place of curiosity and experimenting and make it fun, right? And then you can see, oh, you know what, because everyone I've spoken to, they all notice a difference in how they feel after they cut out animal products. And so
Yeah.
just by, start small, even start with a breakfast, change one meal at a time, do 1 week starting eliminate, changing your breakfast and switch to lunch. However, whatever small transitions you can make, when you go to the coffee shop, instead of getting, regular milk in your latte, try an almond milk latte. Just start trying things. There's so many amazing YouTubers out there who make recipes. Some people I like, the vegan zombie. He's got some great recipes, and he shows all these different products, and he's just really great covering different things in the vegan world. And then Gaz Oakley, he's another great
Yeah, yeah.
vegan chef who makes a lot of great stuff. He's very like passionate. There's a lot of great other ones. And then Forks Over Knives is a great website. That was a huge
Yes.
resource for me too. So just that's how I started. I noticed how I was feeling, and I started exploring, and then I discovered all this amazing food. And before I transitioned to fully vegan, I just started trying it. I got a cookbook. I watched it. I found recipes online. I just started trying it, and I just really loved the food. And then from there, it went to the animals and the environment. And yeah, it's about progress. It's not about being perfect. And wherever you can make some kind of progress, it's going to have an impact overall.
Yeah.
So.
I think even to some of the words that people should use, because I think now I use sometimes like the words of like eating flesh rather than eating meat, because it makes
Mm,
people think, that was probably one of the things I learned when I did this the sort of sitting, supermarket sitting,
mm-hmm.
which was quite scary. I was quite anxious about it because I'd never done anything like that before, and there's quite a few of us. It was our first time, um, and that was really interesting because it was didn't really know what to do with us. They didn't really know how to handle us, like all sitting there. And I suppose that maybe is one thing I could tell you a little bit more about because it was really, I don't know if I've got time or not.
Yeah, we
Um,
have a couple minutes. We can.
yeah, so just before I tell you that, just to mention when you're talking about health, I have had my eyes tested a couple of times now since I've been vegan, and I have an improvement in my eyesight. So in my
That's
late
great.
50s, that's unusual to have an improvement in your eyesight. I don't need to wear glasses for reading.
That's
And
great.
again, and that the optician thought that was down to cutting dairy out. So that's something for your listeners to be interested in. And
That's
I know a
interesting.
couple of doctors that have recommended people that have been diagnosed with cancer to go onto a vegan diet as well. So that's all other interesting.
Because it can
Yeah,
help because it can help with the inflammation. I had a interview on my channel with a vegan nutritionist, and we talk about how plant-based eating, how it's good for your gut health, and when you eat foods that are good for your gut, because when you have inflammation in your body, that can feed diseases such as cancer and other chronic health issues. And so um, you might have to have treatments and medication, of course, but changing your diet can help with that healing process. And if you're putting food in your body that's not going to make your body, also get upset, then at least by changing your diet, you're helping your body have a better chance of healing better.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. So the sit-in was a campaign to because we were going into New Year, so we were going
Yeah.
into into the new year. We had signs with animals on the signs that are saying think about us at midnight. So trying to get people to think, that actually, that these animals are have the atrocities that happen to them. So what we did was we went into the supermarket. We were suggested that we pick up a bunch of flowers as we went in, and we randomly gathered. So we didn't all kind of walk around the supermarket at the same time, but we all gathered in the flesh aisle. And we all sat down in the flesh aisle. There was about 20 of us, so it was quite a substantial number of people. And we sat with our flowers in front of us. We were also silent, so we had no engagement with people.
Oh, wow.
So we had something a mask, sort of tape over our mouth, which was probably more powerful because you couldn't get into a discussion. which was probably more powerful because it was a silent protest then. In Scotland, we're allowed to have silent protests. I think in the UK we can have a silent protest. We have to leave when we're asked to leave, and you're not doing anything illegal as long as you leave when you're asked to leave.
Mm-hmm.
The supermarket people were just really so stunned by the process that they didn't actually ask us to leave. They didn't
Oh,
know what
wow.
to do with us. So we sat there for 45 minutes whilst they shut the aisle off on both sides. So that meant people couldn't buy meat during that period of time for 45 minutes, which is a success in itself. We were able to raise our banners above the level of, so they used big trolleys to kind of shut off the aisles. And obviously people were looking round the trolleys to try and figure out what was going on because it was a disruption to their shopping. So again, we think, well, that was quite good because that was something that made people stop and think about what they were eating. So the managers would come and they would stare at us and not actually engage with us. They didn't really know what to say. They didn't know what to do. And they just seemed to get more and more higher up managers to come and stare at us, which was interesting. And then the police arrived, and the police had asked the person that was leading the campaign what her purpose was, and she said, that when we were asked to leave, we'll leave. And the police said, so if we ask you to leave, will you leave? And she said, of course. So that did make the supermarket people look a bit stupid because, like,
They didn't even, that just, I feel like that just shows even more how important communication is, right? Like they didn't even ask, they didn't even say anything, and it could have been as simple as you were there for 5 minutes and they could have asked you to leave.
and that's what we thought would be there for 5 minutes. So
Wow.
45 minutes we were able to put and so and this is another really interesting story because the person that actually leads the campaign has changed her name by deed poll to Be Vegan. Her name is Be Vegan.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so when the police interviewed her, the police asked her name, and she said, my name is Be Vegan. And they were saying, well, we want your real name. She says, well, my name is actually Be Vegan. I've changed it by
Wow.
It was a bit of a sort of funny one as well. But the other thing was we were able to, because we were all asked to leave at the same time, we all were told to stand up by the person that was organised, put the flowers down near the flesh as to say, this is the grave. This is the grave of these flesh. We weren't stealing the flowers. We hadn't left the supermarket with them. We weren't destroying them. But it was a way of kind of communicating that actually this is the death of an animal here.
Mm-hmm.
And we all marched out of the supermarket, and because we were asked to leave at the same time, we were able to have almost like a silent procession through the supermarket, which again was quite powerful, I think, because we still had our banners and we still carried our banners silently through the supermarket. And of course, it raised awareness. Children were asking their parents what was happening,
Right.
because it was a very busy day. So it was really pretty powerful, the campaign. And I mean, it didn't take a huge amount of organising. We all just had to turn up at the right time, at the right place, and kind of do that. And so it's another way that people may want to consider campaigning in a sort of quiet, without engaging, and whether that is in your country, whether you can actually protest silently without being charged by the police, because obviously in the UK we can, as long as you're
Yeah.
not.
And it all
So
sounds so very impactful. It's impactful work. And yeah, thanks again. I need to wrap up now, but it was so great having you here. Thank you again for sharing your personal journey with veganism and the work that you're doing. Edinburgh sounds like a really amazing community, and I would love to visit it one day. I haven't been anywhere in the UK, so I'd love to visit Edinburgh one day if I do make it over there. But yeah, it sounds like
yeah,
great work. And yeah, wherever you're watching, check out your local community and see how you could get involved. I'm sure there's something going on somewhere. And if not, there's always online communities. I'm going to include the link to
yeah,
mine in the notes below. And Anne, thanks again for coming on. And
yeah.
thank you all for watching. Bye for
Thanks
now.
for having me. Okay, bye. Bye.